ended up being quite the finish there at Richmond. Chris Gabehart proving why he gets paid the big bucks to do the strategy calls for Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing and the 11 team. Quite the finish to the race. You saw a lot of different strategies there. Denny Hamlin gets his first top 10, not only his first win of the year, his first top 10 of the year. He's had a horrible start to the 2022 season, but he gets himself a win. That's how he gets his first top 10. And I guess that's the way to do it. Get yourself a win. Wins at his home track at Richmond, and it was quite the ending to the race. We had lots of different strategies there in Stage 3. We had more green flag runs or pit cycles today than we've had in the first 5-6 races of the season already. And yeah, it made quite the exciting finish. Maybe only 1 or 2 cautions for incident, both at the very beginning of Stage 3. So, you know, the strategy was, do you go 2-stop or 1-stop to the end of the race? A lot of people opted for a 2-stop. Only a couple opted for a 1-stop. And William Byron started with the 2-stop strategy, but, you know, in the middle of the run decided to only go with that one and only stop. And he was leading for the majority of that last run up until about 5-6 to go. And Martin Truex Jr., who was on that 1-stop strategy but had stopped about 10 to 15 laps later than William Byron, was rapidly closing in on Byron. Then it evened out at about 3 seconds, but then Truex started to slowly close in, you know, a tenth or two a lap, and it was down to under a second. But during this time, while you're focusing on William Byron and Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson is suddenly cutting lap times down significantly. He's under 5 seconds of the lead. And then you look back and Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick, they've gone from a long way back to 10 seconds back, and then 2 laps later, they're 5 seconds back on Kyle Larson's tail, and they're passing Kyle Larson, and then all of a sudden Truex is within half a second of Byron, and then all of a sudden Truex is getting passed by Hamlin and Harvick, and then 5 to go, Denny Hamlin makes his move, gets past William Byron, Kevin Harvick gets past William Byron, and it's a matter of, can Hamlin maneuver lap traffic? Can he hold off Kevin Harvick? The answer was yes. Hamlin was able to maneuver the lap traffic perfectly. He was able to keep enough space between him and Harvick so that he could win without a potential bump and run. We saw a couple of those today, actually. We saw one in the Xfinity race as well. But yes, Denny Hamlin, his first win of 2022. Remember, last year it took him all the way till the playoff opener at Darlington for him to get his first win of the season. This year he does it in race, what is this, race number 7. So he gets the win earlier, even though it has been a terrible start to 2022, as I just said earlier. His first top 10 of the year. He hasn't led a ton of laps. He hasn't been, you know, running up front much. He's been involved in crashes. He's been involved in mechanical failures. I mean, it seems like everything's gone wrong for him. But today, everything went right for him, and it was a great strategy call from Chris Gabehart that got them the win. They were able to, you know, go get a 2-stop strategy, and they were the best ones out of it, the first ones out of it. They were able to be up in the top 5, top 10 most of the day, and they were able to take advantage of the fresher tires. Denny Hamlin, prior to today, he had 3 wins at Richmond, so he knew how to get it done. So Chris Gabehart put him in position, and he got it done. So Hamlin, after a terrible start, finally gets a great result. But yeah, last year it seemed like this kind of thing would happen to Hamlin, actually. It would be Hamlin who would dominate the early stages of the race. You know, I think it was this race last year. He led a good chunk of the race, maybe won a stage, maybe swept the stages. I can't remember. But, you know, it was this race, Martinsville. I can't remember the others, but he would always fall short. A late race caution would, you know, screw him over, or, you know, something else would happen, and he would end up not winning the race. But this year, I'm not saying he lucked into the win. This was, you know, they were top 5, top 10 most of the day, but it wasn't a dominating Denny Hamlin performance. He didn't lead a ton of laps. In fact, I think he only led those last 5 to 6, but he put him and Chris Gabehart put him in position late to contend for the win, and then Denny Hamlin obviously made the right moves, drove a great final segment of the race to win his 47th career win. 47, that's quite a bit. I don't know where that is on the all-time list. Someone look that up. But yeah, honestly, not the most eventful race other than the strategy. I mean, as I said, only a couple of incidents, but this strategy kind of played out in stage 2. We saw the 2-stop versus the 1-stop. And the 2-stop prevailed in that, with Martin Truex Jr. winning the stage. But Christopher Bell did finish second on the 1-stop strategy. So, it wasn't exactly you're screwed if you do the 1-stop, but, it was definitely more difficult to manage. And, William Byron still finished third after the 1-stop. Truex still finished fourth. So, still a good day for them, a good result for them. But they did take that gamble. They did take that risk, and it didn't pay off for them in terms of the win, but they did get a good points day, a good result. And, Toyota as a whole, this is their first win in the next-gen car. They didn't win those first 6 races. They were looking really close at Vegas before Eric Jones decided to crash with 2 to go. They haven't been quite on the same level as Chevrolet or Ford. And this was the week, it's the Toyota Owners 400. It's bound to happen this week, and of course it ends up happening. But Toyota, this is one of their better tracks for sure, especially Joe Gibbs Racing. I think they said Kyle Busch has, 5, 6 wins here. Hamlin now has 4. Truex has 3. Christopher Bell's won here a few times in Xfinity. So Joe Gibbs Racing is usually pretty strong at this racetrack. So it was expected that they would step it up today. And another little fun fact about today is that Joe Gibbs Racing actually started what might become a trend in the Cup Series, and that is a new pit stop choreography. They decided to start a new thing where, usually you see the guys, there's front tire changers and carriers, and there's rear tire changers and carriers, and they only do the front. So, the guy will go to the right side of the car, do the right front, in, out, that kind of thing, and then he'll go do the left front. But we saw something different today. Joe Gibbs Racing posted that they would do this morning, that it was a new choreography that they were going to be trying out, and it's very different in that they go from, instead of the guy on the right front doing the right front and the left front, all the guys, instead of going, splitting around the car, so the rear will go around the rear and the front will go around the front, everyone goes around the front of the car. But the guy who was changing the right front tire, so, guy, right front changer, he does that. He goes to the left rear because he is closest to that left rear if everyone's going the same way. So he runs all the way around the car, gets to that left rear, switches that left rear, and the guy who's on the right rear goes all the way around. He does the left front because, that's the quickest way. He wouldn't want to run around the left front changer to get to the right rear or the left rear when he could just go around the back. So they did that. It also does not interrupt the fueling of the car. The fuel man, the gas man, does not have to mess around with potentially running into a tire changer, a tire carrier, running into a tire. He fully has that area in that lane to fuel the car, go get the second can, fuel it without having any issues. And it was quite successful for Joe Gibbs Racing. In fact, Kyle Busch's crew clocked in the fastest 4-tire stop in NASCAR history. Of course, we are now with the single lug. That makes it quicker, but this has been the quickest stop of the season, therefore the quickest stop of all time. I think it was a 9.19. But a very quick stop, and that was something I found very interesting. We don't talk about pit stops a lot on here unless it's, costing someone a race or winning someone a race, like we saw at Phoenix with Kyle Larson. But we don't usually talk about the choreography or the specific movement of a pit crew on a pit stop. But this one I found very interesting, and it was a very talked about topic today during the race, and I thought we should talk about it here. And I think it's a very interesting thing, and I think a lot of teams, if it really is this much quicker, if it really can get you a few tenths, even maybe a full second on pit road, that's valuable time. I think a lot of teams will be adapting this new tire changing system. Anyways, let's look at the results of this race. Denny Hamlin, his first win of 2022, as I said. It was a horrible start to the season for him. Nothing went right for him. Vegas, they were up front, and they had a gearbox, I think, was their problem. Daytona 500, they crashed out early. They've had all sorts of problems throughout the year. They finally have everything go their way for a good result, and they take full advantage of it and go on to win the race. So great result for Denny Hamlin. Toyota's first win in the next-gen car. He's now locked into the playoffs. He was down in the 20s in points, but, I expected him to rebound, but, he wins and eliminates that problem altogether. Second place, Kevin Harvick was looking for his first win since 2020. Was just short, but a really good result. He's been running pretty well this year. SHR as a whole has been much better. Briscoe got that win at Phoenix. He's had a couple good runs. Harvick's had some good runs. Almirola's had some good runs. Even Custer's had a couple of good runs. But Harvick finishes second here. A good result for him. Getting closer. Can he get back in victory lane? I believe he can. William Byron tried to gamble with the tires. Was doing a pretty good job, honestly. But, you know, the quicker tires did prevail there at the end. He led a great amount of laps today, but he ends up finishing third. Good result. They had the win in the bag, so or not like this one, but they have a win in their bag, so they're already into the playoffs. They don't have to worry about anything like that. So, you know, they could take a risk, and they took that risk. It didn't pay off for them in terms of the win, but they didn't drop off a cliff and lose a ton of points. They still finished third. Same thing for Martin Truex Jr. Led a lot of laps today, except he doesn't have a win this year, but led a lot of laps today. I think he won a stage, I believe. But, you know, really good day for him. Led a lot of laps, was up front. Richmond is one of his better tracks as of recent years, so not a shock that he was up front. He finishes fourth on the day. Kyle Larson fifth. I kind of forgot that he existed until that final run today. I mean, he's had a rough year as well. He's had a couple of DNFs. He was involved in a wreck last week at COTA. By the way, sorry that I didn't make a post-race video at COTA last week. I was having stomach issues and was not able to make that, so I apologize once again for not getting that video up or even, you know, attempting to make a video, but I was in no condition to make a video. So, yeah, apologies for that. Congrats to Ross Chastain on his first win. We're late. We're like a week late, but sorry. Kyle Larson, he was involved in a wreck last week at COTA. He's been involved, I want to say, in a couple wrecks earlier this year, but he does have a win this year, so he is in the playoffs, but, you know, not the greatest start to the year. Sixth, Christopher Bell, all four Joe Gibbs racing cars in the top 10. Bell led some laps today. He was second in that second stage, I believe. Good day for him. Seventh, Ryan Blaney, one of his worst tracks, led over 100 laps. Usually you hear a guy leads over 100 laps, you assume that they're going to win. Ryan Blaney is like, that's like a curse for him. I think he's had 5 or 6 times in his career he's led over 100 laps, and he has 0 wins with him. It's mind-boggling how that happens. He leads over 100 laps, and just all of a sudden his win chance is just gone. But really good day. He was great in that first stint. Won that first stage, and you know later on just wasn't as good as some of the Truexes. Hamlin's, those kind of guys, but you know, a good day for him. 8th place, Alex Bowman started deep in the field, came back for a top 10. 9th, Kyle Busch had a very bizarre penalty. This is a new one due to the next gen car, but he got a penalty for putting tape on the grill. You used to be able to do that with the next gen car. You can't. You had to do it on the brake ducts or something with the brakes. And yeah, so he got a pass-through penalty. But the odd thing is that they put that tape on like lap 100, somewhere in the 100 to 200 range, and they didn't call him in until about 50 to go. So they waited 200 laps to penalize him. So that's a very bizarre penalty, first of all, that I had never heard of, that I didn't know existed until today. And second of all, NASCAR, why did you wait so long to penalize him? Quite bizarre, but he rallies for a top 10. Austin Dillon gets a top 10. Good day for him. Chase Briscoe, 11th, a roller coaster of a day. He was starting in the top 5, and then he was a lap down at one point because he just fell off a cliff. Rallies back for an 11th. He was in the top 10 there at the end, but 11th. 12th, Tyler Reddick. 13th, Brad Keselowski. He was in the top 10 for a bit. 14th, Chase Elliott. He was top 5, top 10, and they made a really bad adjustment at the beginning of Stage 3, and he was like on the verge of getting lapped in like 20th or something, but they end up 14th. 15th, Chris Buescher. Overall, a good day for RFK. 16th, Daniel Suarez. 17th, Joey Logano. He had a very good car today. They had like a pit issue with the jack. They weren't able to jack it up, so they had to go jack it from the rear, get a second jack to get the left side of the car up. So that essentially ruined their day. They were top 5 most of the day. Really good car, but 17th, so disappointing result for Logano. 18th, Harrison Burton. 19th, Ross Chastain. He was top 5 early in this race. And once again, congratulations to him for his win at COTA. 20th, Austin Cindric. 21st, Eric Almirola. 22nd, Cole Custer. 23rd, Eric Jones. 24th, Ty Dillon. 25th, Todd Gilliland, 26th. Bubba Wallace, 27th. AJ Allmendinger, 28th. Ricky Stenhouse, 29th. Justin Haley, 30th. Michael McDowell, 31st. Corey LaJoie, 32nd. Landon Castle, 33rd. JJ Yaley, 34th. BJ McLeod, 35th. Kurt Busch early in this race, like 10 laps in, had like the power shut off, had some type of mechanical failure, and he ends up like 110 laps down. So very unfortunate day for him. The rest of the race after they got, I think it was a fuel cell issue now that I think about it, or fuel pump, something like that. That was basically a test day for them after their issues. 36th, Cody Ware, and 37th, Greg Biffle. Great to see the Biff running back in NASCAR again, but, unfortunate day for him. They had some suspension problems. So, yeah, once again, pretty decent race. The racing wasn't spectacular, but the strategy made this race really, really fun, especially the ending, the 2-stop versus the 1-stop. Who could manage their tires the best? Could Hamlin get there? Could Truex get there? Could Harvick get there? And it ends up with a Denny Hamlin win. Overall, I really enjoyed this race. I thoroughly did enjoy it. It had its moments where it was dull for sure, but the strategy for me was what made it interesting. And I personally love a good strategy race. And I also love to see the drivers manage their tires. Like, there was one run where Byron had like 10 to 15 laps older tires than Truex, and he was consistently holding him back from about half a second. I don't know if Truex was holding back trying to save his tires or what, but Byron was doing a really good job, and I was like, man, this is really good stuff, Sure, it's not side-by-side exchanging the lead every lap, but, it's kind of neat to see a guy with older tires at a track where tires wear, to see a guy hold someone off with that much fresher tires. So that was fun from my perspective, but overall I enjoyed it. I'd say it's an 8 out of 10. If we had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, let me know what you thought of the race, what you thought of the strategies throughout the day. And we got another race next week. It's at Martinsville. I think it's a Saturday night race. Oh boy, I just realized Martinsville is Saturday night, and then Australia in F1 is like midnight on Sunday. Whew, that's going to be a fun night. Usually F1's first, so that's going to be a nice change. That's going to be a nice change. But, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and you like NASCAR and F1 and motorsports.